Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. Having a part-time team can be challenging, but what if your business is only open one day a week and only in the summer? How do you build a loyal team that consistently delivers an outstanding customer experience? My guest today, Jeff Striegle, is the general manager at Berlin Raceway, a NASCAR-sanctioned short track in Michigan that presents weekly races from April through September. And during those months, every Saturday night, the Berlin team comes together to host up to 9,600 race fans, and then they're done until the next Saturday. When he's not overseeing things at Berlin, Jeff broadcasts NASCAR races around the country as the voice of the Motor Racing Network. So taking time out from all of that, please welcome Jeff Striegle. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Ken. How are you?
Really good, thanks. So you've got a really interesting background. So how did you get into broadcasting? Let's start there.
That was not something that I had planned to do. I didn't go to school for it. I didn't train for it in any way, shape, or form. The broadcasting thing was purely by accident. I got to start, Ken, with the beginning of racing and the passion that it became. And that was going to the track when I was 10 years old. My dad brought me there. We bought a race car at one point. We raced until family came around. And I just felt like at that point, Ken, I needed to stay involved in some way. So at that point, got involved in the track through public address. They had a small radio station that was broadcasting the event. So I joined that team. And then it was purely by chance that they said, you ought to send an audition tape into the Motor Racing Network. That was back in 1996. I got the opportunity to audition. And Ken, I made the team, and now I'm in my 27th year of broadcasting with the Motor Racing Network.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You do such a great job. It's so nice to have a pro at our small little Berlin Raceway to interview drivers and announce some of the races. And it's obvious that you're big time there. So that's a great start. Good that somebody encouraged you to go try out. So how did that lead to becoming the GM at Berlin?
That's interesting as well, because to be honest with you, it was something that I had never even given much consideration to. I was working, full-time for Gordon Food Service. I was also obviously traveling every weekend with the Motor Racing Network. And over the course of probably 4 decades, there were 4 different ownership teams that came into the Berlin Raceway. And I had the fortune to stay involved with each one. Spending time talking about ideas. They might want to bounce one thing off me or another, but never was there an opportunity to actually get involved at this particular level. True story, the timing was right. It was almost 3 years ago to this point, and I was just bored. All I was doing was the Motor Racing Network. It was snowing outside. They called. They had called before, and I'd always said no. But they called at the right time, Ken. I wasn't doing anything. I went in, I listened to what they had to say, and I took the opportunity.
All right. Well, that's great. So, all right, let's talk about your team. Now, how do you attract and retain that team for this once a week seasonal work and deliver such a great experience?
It's hard. As you well know, the landscape has changed. How we do business today is changing. Product costs are up. The cost to employ anybody at any level is up dramatically. And then when you look at it and you say, okay, we'd like to hire you, but we only want to hire you for one day, and that day is going to be on a Saturday. And oh, by the way, it is the best time of the season or year here in Michigan, and that is in the middle of the late spring, early fall, and throughout the entire summer. So, Ken, I try all the time to think about what it is that we do right, what it is that we do wrong. And I think the thing that I try to instill in everybody is that no matter what their position is on the racetrack, they are a highly valuable employee. I try to know their name. I try to see them every single opportunity I have. I thank them every time I'm there. I'm not always there simply because I travel with NASCAR. So when I'm there, I'd like to think of my time as being double valuable and just simply getting around and seeing what the people are doing, hearing what they have to say, and making sure that each and every one of them recognizes that I do find them to be a very valuable team member. And you notice how I don't talk about pay. It just really, you have to be consistent with the industry. You have to be consistent with the businesses that are around us. We certainly try to do that. But, I feel like the Berlin Raceway is one of the top short tracks in the country, a place where people want to go and where they want to work. And that may be a tech official that someday dreams of doing things with NASCAR. It might be somebody in our food and beverage operation that has no aspirations at all of moving on, but they just want to be a part of something that's big and fun and exciting. And then our leadership team, most everybody that is a part of our leadership team has dreams of working at someday uh, in their career for the Tigers, the Detroit Tigers, or the Lions, or the Pistons. And that's not lost on me. And I will oftentimes tell them that what you're doing right now is going to be valuable to you when you're ready to take that next step.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now I know you got a lot going on there. You've got kind of two teams. You've got that part-time every Saturday night seasonal group,
Mhm.
and then you've also got a smaller team that's full-time year-round. And so how do you balance and bring those folks all together so that it's such a great experience come Saturday night race time?
It's all about our leaders for sure, Ken. I think when we look at our security team that employs upwards of 20 individuals, our ticket office staff, which has 10 people on their roster, we have our safety crew, we have our tech officials, we have food and beverage. There's I think we're probably as diverse of a company as maybe any out there. So what I typically try to do, Ken, is I make sure that our leaders understand the importance of good customer service, and that's true not only for the people that walk through our gates that paid money to come in and watch the auto racing, but it's also true for tech officials and support people that are dealing with anywhere from 100 to 500 people on pit road that are there to support their race team or their drivers or whatever the case might be. So I really look at it as though it's our leadership team. If we can hire the best people we possibly can to lead that organization in all those different touch points, that's job one. And if we can do that, we can have a good, successful team, and we certainly do that.
Yeah, and I've noticed that. I mean, full disclosure, I've been a season ticket holder for a couple of years. I love coming out to the track. I came out years before I became a season ticket holder. So I see that you have some of those Saturday night team members that have been there for a couple of years. Like year after year, they're coming back out for this part-time seasonal work. And so you definitely are doing something right that you're attracting them and retaining them, that they want to keep being part of things. And I'll also say that the customer experience is just amazing. And it's interesting to hear how you take such a personal interest in that, because from concessions to ticketing to the parking guys, everybody's friendly, everybody's enthusiastic, everybody's smiling. It's just such a great experience week after week. It's really interesting how you've pulled that together, because it is such a challenging environment.
I am, and everybody that works with me or anybody that knows me will recognize that I am a very, very competitive person. So, whether that goes back to when I was driving a race car or whether we're playing cards on a Saturday night, I play to win. And that's really true with our team and with what we do at Berlin Raceway. So, in other words, if we're going to have a ticketing staff, there's all kinds of ticketing staffs all over the place, right? Not only at racetracks, but at movie theaters and amusement parks and the zoo. Point being is that I want our ticketing staff to be the absolute best. I want people to compare everybody to us. How do we do it? Same thing is true with food and beverage. Whether we're selling hot dogs, When I got there, I took time to make sure I understood how long somebody was going to have to wait in line to get a hot dog, and I didn't like it. We could do better, and we have done better. I looked at how our customers were greeted when they went to get a beverage, a beer, a pop, a water, and there were things I liked, there were things I didn't like. But no matter what we do, I want to be compared to whoever the best is out there in the country. Compare it to us. Are we equal to that? If we're not, then we've got work to do. Are we a leader in that industry? That's great. We're not going to let up. So, I mean, honestly, I'm glad that you say that. And I appreciate those fans that have been there for years that will pull me aside and say, we like the direction you're going in. We've been treated well. The experience is great. The pricing is right. And when you do all of that, you have a really good season like we've had the past three for sure.
Now you travel around obviously with MRN and you see a lot of tracks and big time tracks. And you're going to be in Talladega next week
Mm-hmm.
and you just go all around the country to all the big venues. What lessons have you learned and things that you've brought back to Berlin, either do's or don'ts?
How about if I give you an example of our track right here in the state, which is the Michigan International Speedway, our big sister. They right now will boast on a given weekend 70 plus different things that you can do at Michigan International Speedway besides watch cars go round and round. And that was something that I think all of the tracks, whether they're big or small, a little short track Friday night dirt track in the middle of nowhere, a Berlin Raceway, a Talladega, it's all about the fan experience. And the thing that I try to do, Ken, when I'm down at Talladega, we'll use that as an example, is I'm always watching, always listening, always making notes. Is there something that they are doing that we can replicate? Is there something that they're doing that I don't like? So I think they missed the boat. They could have done this or could have done that I could bring back to the track. That is, to me, Ken, that is fan experience. And if all we're going to do is race every Saturday night, you're liable to get burned out. But if we can keep it fun and entertaining, you're liable to keep coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and speaking of entertaining, you've been able to bring some big time names to Berlin. I want to dig into that, and we'll do that on the other side of the break. Stay with us here on the Clarity Advisor Show.
Is your business where you want it to be or on track to get there? Clarity Advisors helps business leaders improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success. We specialize in helping you streamline your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Call or text Ken at 616-822-2998 to have a complimentary 12-minute call to see what some clarity could do for you.
Okay, welcome back to the Clarity Advisor Show. This week we're talking with Jeff Striegle, General Manager at Berlin Raceway. And Jeff, you get drivers from around the country, including some really big-time NASCAR guys, and they rave about the track and their experience and how they're treated. What's your secret to keeping those drivers happy, and how are you attracting them to come to Marne, Michigan to race a short track?
You know, when you talk about big name drivers, you're referring to a Chase Elliott, a William Byron, who just won this past weekend. 6-time winner at the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's been to our track 3 times in the past 2 years. Chase was there, Carson Hocevar. There's a long list of top level drivers. Can I look at it this way? Number one, they're not coming unless we reach out and make sure that they know that we want you there. Same thing I do with you as a customer. I want you there, Ken. And I make every effort to make sure that you know that. I make every effort to make sure that Chase Elliott knew that. It took me I don't know, a half a dozen or more phone calls in a matter of about 3 or 4 months leading up to our big race where he was. Um, and I got to tell you this, it's a snowball effect. It is momentum. You start with a snowball, you roll it down the hill, and what happens? That snowball gets bigger. The momentum is bigger. The excitement level is growing. Not only is the excitement level growing from a fan that, let's say, has heard about the track and wants to get out there. Same thing is true with our competitors. Berlin is a place that if they haven't been there before, they want it on their resume. They hear about it. They hear about it in a positive light, and they want to come out and see what that excitement and that hype is all about. And hopefully they don't leave disappointed.
Yeah, well, that's it, and would imagine that the drivers are talking about it. Byron comes back to the track, the NASCAR track, and talks to his teammates, Chase and whatever, and lets them know, yeah, it's a fun track. It's a unique track, and there's some serious racing going on there. So yeah, well, and speaking of serious racing, so this year Berlin had the honor of hosting the SRX Series, which they only do 6 events in the summer, and so it's a pretty prestigious thing to land in Marne, Michigan. How did you get the Tony Stewart SRX experience to come to Berlin?
3 years in the making. How's that? We'll start there. When they first announced what they were going to do, and they're only in their 3rd year right now, next year will be year 4. When they announced that they were going to race 6 times at 6 short tracks around the country, we knew we had to be one of those. It was going to be a matter of, okay, we want them. How do we get them? So when in year 1, they pretty much had identified the tracks that they were going to go to. So when I called them, as soon as I heard about it, the deal was pretty much done. But I also made sure that they recognized we wanted to have them. Last year, 2022, it did look as though we were going to have them, and at the very last minute, some things occurred within their organization, and they had to step out. And they said, hey, we're going to be in touch with you for 2023. Let's make sure we can get this done. They called right away, and we were able to get that thing booked. Ken, as you know, huge hit. We sold out in a matter of 45 days, and from that point on, it was just building to make sure that it exceeded everybody's expectation.
Yeah, now you guys week in and week out have a pretty fine-tuned machine, and you know what's got to happen. You've got, the gates are set, the parking set. Everybody kind of knows their role, and you guys execute. With SRX, it was a different deal. They came in and basically took over the track. So what adjustments did your team have to make to work with SRX?
Well, and I know you were there, Ken, so I know that you had the opportunity to really see everything firsthand. Everything had to be redone, revamped, reinvented, or rethought out for sure. And it didn't matter whether we were talking where we're going to park everybody. We moved how people, entered the property. Our main entrance was not going to hold the amount of people coming and going throughout the day, so we moved it, enhanced it, expanded it. We brought in more food and beverage. We brought in more volunteers. We brought in more staff. And even from the pits, that's where they really took over. They have to have a compound that is similar to, for those that are familiar with NASCAR, a garage compound area that would be similar to what you would see at Michigan International Speedway. That meant it all had to be fenced in. They call it a hot garage, where people cannot access that garage without the appropriate credential. We still had a support division that was racing. We had fans down there. We had food and beverage. Ken, you were there. I think you saw every single piece of that property had to be touched, reevaluated, enhanced in one way or another.
Yeah, and it was super smooth. As somebody who's seen it on non-SRX race days and then on SRX race day, it was clear what had changed. But I think for fans that just came to that race, it was super transparent as to, like, it just, you walked right in and everything was smooth. And it was like this, you do it this big every week, because that was a big week. There was a lot of folks that came out for that race, and was sold out since what? February.
Yeah.
And so it was a bigger event than usual. But you've run some big events during the season too. The Battle at Berlin and the Money in the Bank, those are pretty sold out events as well. But yeah, the SRX was just over the top. So we are going to get that again next year, right?
We're waiting. We're waiting.
Okay.
I've got my phone right next to me. Should that phone ring, I probably have to let you go for a minute. I'll let you peek behind the curtain. We're in contact with them. They know us. We know them. They know that I believe based on what they tell me, they know that what we delivered in August met their expectations. Um, our crowd was unreal, not only from a size standpoint, but just from the interaction that they provided. I know that the Kevin Harvick and the Kyle Busch and the Castro Neves and the Andretti's, they loved it. Yes, those were the names that were there. Tony Stewart, he loved it. Ken, I hope within a matter of 2 weeks we'll know not only if they're coming back, but what date they'll be coming back. And we'll be excited to announce that, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so back to your team. As you think back over the years now that you've been responsible for building and growing the Berlin experience, what are some things that worked and didn't work? Then you've had lessons and adjustments you've had to make over the years to really get Berlin to where it is today.
I think it's buy-in. I want people to see that work for me, work with me, to see my passion. I'm not afraid to do anything on that property, and I have. I've basically done it all in just a matter of a short period of time. I'm not afraid to move picnic tables, and I'm also not afraid to move picnic tables and make sure they're in an absolutely perfectly straight line. I don't want picnic tables just thrown around the concourse. I want them set appropriately. So, again, I really think there's a lot that all of us as leaders can do to enhance the people that we work with, and I think that if my passion um, can be, driven down, given to others around me, that's kind of my goal. And it goes back to what I said before. I know that a lot of these younger people that work with me are not going to finish their career at Berlin. They want to go work for the Detroit Lions. But the Detroit Lions have a food and beverage team. The Detroit Lions have a ticketing office. They have a marketing and advertising program. And so do we. And everything that we do, I feel like I have the opportunity to teach, educate, coach, mentor, and try to help everybody do it what I think is the right way. And I'm not afraid to go and talk to every single person on that property and ask them, Ken, you're working deep in the kitchen here. It's hot back here. It's a Saturday night. Are we doing what we need to do to make sure this is a place you want to come to work at? And that's true for everybody on the property.
Yeah. Well, I will say that before you and I actually met, I had noticed you and I didn't know who you were at first, but I saw you and I knew you were some kind of a leader at Berlin, but I saw you interacting with the food and beverage staff and talking to the security team. Like before the races would start, I just see you walking around talking with people and encouraging them. And I was hoping that you were a fairly high up leader because I thought, wow, if he's running this thing, that's really good because he's somebody that really cares about his team. So that was noticeable early on. And that's what frankly drew me to want you on the show because I saw you as the kind of leader that really pours into your people and recognizes that you've got to encourage people, especially in the competitive environment that we're in. And for you specifically with the once a week seasonal kind of work, if you don't get people to feel like they're appreciated, things just start to fall apart. So yeah, that's really good to hear directly how that's all going on and that's very intentional on your part. So Jeff, you've been around broadcast teams, race teams, track operations teams for years and years. What have you noticed that's different today to be a successful leader?
Well, when you bring the track in, I think I have to go back, first of all, to the entertainment value. We used to go to Michigan International Speedway. I'll just use them as an example again. For those of us that live around the track, we used to go there and we'd watch racing on a Saturday and then maybe on a Sunday and we'd go home. Maybe we camped there. That was it. Now you go there and you can listen to music. You can interact in games. You can track walk. The concourse is loaded with opportunities. I'll tell you something, Ken. The one thing that I thrive on is ideas and being creative. We have a different theme night every single time that we race. We race 24 times a year. Every single night is a theme night in order to try to give a little bit different look or feel to what what the week before looked like or what next week is going to look like. The thing that I try to do and encourage with anybody and everybody that is on our team is I want ideas. I can come up with a lot of ideas, but Ken, you and I can come up with a better idea than what I can come up with by myself. And if we bring 4 or 5 more people into this roundtable ideation discussion, we can probably come up with a home run. Not everyone is a home run. And I think, too, that that is something that always takes encouragement because somebody's going to come up with an idea and I'm like, yeah, I think this is going to this will work great, only to find out that it doesn't. And it's like, we're good. We tried it. It didn't work. We learned some things. Maybe it spawned a different idea that we're going to implement later on. All right. I know that's not a direct answer to your question, but what I learned from other tracks is that you never stop trying to do something that's brand new. I've always believed in lead, follow, or get out of the way. And I'm just not one to get out of the way. I'm not afraid to follow. If I see something that is being done well, I believe is going to be a enhancement to our track, I'll follow that all day long. Most importantly, though, Ken, I want to lead. I want to be innovative in the industry. And, we've got a great track to be able to do that. We've got fans that support it. We've got racers that support it. And for those reasons, we're just going to continue to try to keep coming up with ideas that maybe people have never seen before.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you personally, I encourage friends and family to come out to the track. I said, listen, you don't need to be a racing fan. This is an entertainment experience. There's going to be, it's the team there is going to take care of you. You're going to feel welcome. The fans are going to make you feel welcome. People there, it's just such a great vibe. People just are there to have fun and be entertained. It's very relaxed and it's very comfortable. And I said, if you just are looking for something fun to do, starts around 6:30, it goes till 9:30, but you can leave anytime. Sometimes a little bit's enough. And it's just a great experience. So come out whether you like racing or not, because it's a great venue. You've got bands after the racing every Saturday night. So you come out and listen to the music if you want to stay late. It's a fun place to go. And I'm so impressed with what you've done, and the changes have been so visible these last few years, adding the patios and the decks and just improving that experience year after year. It's been noticeable. And bringing the events and the drivers, it's a lot of fun. It's nice to be super proud of that. I come from Wisconsin, and so when SRX came to Slinger, I was like, when's it coming to Berlin? I know, because I've got cousins that race at Slinger and Jefferson over there. And they know about Berlin, and not just because I live here. They know about Berlin because it's on TV, because it's a marquee venue and it's got marquee events, and that's a lot of that's what your leadership has brought. So I appreciate that personally, just as a fan and customer, but also just those leadership lessons. I appreciate you taking time to share all that with us.
I would add one more quick thing too. Race fans that grew up. And started going to the races in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. It was the guys that would go, Ken, you and I would go, and it'd be a guy's trip. Maybe we'd bring a bunch of friends and we'd camp in the infield and do that as an adult group. When you take a look at what we're doing at Berlin and what certainly some other tracks are doing now, we're focused on family. I want kids there. We invite kids to be there, and they're free. So mom and dad, bring your kids. The thing that you will notice, Ken, they also have the thought that we're going to go to a racetrack. There's going to be outhouses. It's going to be dirty. Da 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 da. That is not true. We have as clean and nice of bathroom facilities as any indoor venue in the state or in the country. We have a clean, family-friendly environment. And Ken, you know as well as I do that if we're going to succeed there, we have to be ready to bring the young kids in and hope some of them become race fans or some of them want to drive race cars. So that, to me, when I think of things that we've been able to accomplish that I'm proud of in the short term, it is what we see each and every Saturday night now when we open the gates and we see the families arrive.
It's definitely a family-friendly environment, and I appreciate that as well. So, well, Jeff, this has been great. I really do appreciate your time. What's the best way? You said, more ideas are better. What's the best way if somebody's got an idea to reach out to you and connect with you?
On email, I'll give you my email address. It's jeff.striegle@gmail.com. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's simply Jeff Striegle. So just search it and you can get a hold of me. But I like you just said, Ken, I share my phone number. It's on my Facebook page. I'm always interested. Not every time do I hear somebody with a good idea patting me on the back. There are times when, when you're serving the public, you're gonna make 99.9% of them happy, or at least that's the goal. You're always going to have somebody that's got an idea, maybe didn't have the best experience, but I want to hear from those people too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get those in the show notes. We'll have Jeff's email and Facebook and whatever contacts. So appreciate that. So Jeff, again, thank you so much for making time to do this. I know you've got a lot of things going on. It's still race season. Berlin's wrapped up, but you're still doing NASCAR things for a few more weeks. So again, thanks so much for joining me.
You bet, Ken. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. And that brings us to the end of another Clarity Advisor show. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you could just take a moment to leave a 5-star review on the platform you are listening or watching right now, that would be amazing. And we'll see you next time on the show. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisor Show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.